Welcome to my channel.
My wife texted me from the airport while I was stirring sugar into my coffee. The message was almost cheerful. I took all the gold from the safe and I'm flying away with my young boyfriend. You'll never see me again. I read it twice, then took another sip. My name is Nathan Cole. I'm 34 years old. And at that exact moment, my wife believed she had just won the game. Outside the cafe window, morning traffic moved slowly. Ordinary people living ordinary mornings. No one knew my marriage had just detonated through a text message. No yelling. No confrontation. Just an announcement. I imagined her smiling while typing it. Imagined the excitement. The freedom. The victory she thought she'd secured. The gold she mentioned had been in my family for 3 generations. Coins, bars, heirlooms. Not priceless but meaningful enough to make betrayal sting. And it did sting. Just not the way she expected. Because she didn't know what I had done the night before. I had opened the safe after she went to sleep. Not because I distrusted her. Because something had felt off for months. Late night calls. Sudden gym sessions. Secretive smiles at her phone. So I made a small decision. A quiet one. Something legal. Something clever. Something invisible. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Don't try to stop me. I already boarded. I smiled slightly. Across town the airport cameras were rolling. And within minutes security would open her bag. And realize she wasn't carrying gold. She was carrying evidence. The airport security footage later showed the exact moment her confidence dissolved. She was still smiling when they unzipped the bag. Still relaxed. Still victorious. Until the officer's expression changed. I watched it live from my laptop at the cafe. Not illegally. Not through hacking. Through a compliance portal I had access to as part of my logistics firm's international customs advisory contract. Irony has a sense of humor. The gold bars sat neatly inside her carry-on. Except they weren't just gold anymore. Each bar had been fitted the night before with a tamper-proof tracking insert and a documentation sleeve registered under an asset transfer audit. Because those bars were no longer classified as personal valuables. They were listed as collateral evidence in an ongoing financial compliance inquiry. She didn't know that. When the scanner flagged the documentation tags embedded inside the bars, secondary inspection triggered automatically. Then the second alert hit. The officer pulled out a sealed envelope from beneath the coins. The envelope I had added. Stamped. Registered. Addressed to the Financial Crimes Unit. My wife's smile vanished. The camera zoomed slightly as 2 supervisors approached. Her phone buzzed in her hand. It was me. I sent one line. You should have opened the safe before you opened your mouth. Moments later, airport exits were locked down. Not because she stole gold. But because she was now in possession of something far more dangerous. And she still had no idea what it was. She called me 3 times. I didn't answer. The 4th time I picked up. Nathan, she whispered, voice shaking, what did you do? In the background I heard airport noise, muffled announcements, footsteps, the controlled tension of people pretending nothing was wrong. I didn't do anything, I said calmly. You opened the safe. They're saying I can't leave, she hissed. They're asking questions about documents I've never seen. That's strange, I said. You seemed very confident in your message. Silence. Then anger. You set me up. No, I corrected softly. I prepared. A security officer approached her. I could hear him asking her to step into a private room. Nathan, listen to me, she said quickly. I didn't know. I know, I interrupted. And I meant it. She didn't know. That was the point. The line went dead. I leaned back in my chair and watched the rain start outside the cafe window. 4 months, money had been disappearing from our joint accounts in small, forgettable amounts. Consulting fees. Transfers. Crypto conversions. Too clean to be reckless. Too deliberate to be random. I never confronted her. Instead I spoke to someone else. An auditor. Quietly. Legally. And last night I finalized the documentation linking those gold bars to an internal review. If they left the country, alarms triggered automatically. Which meant one thing. She hadn't just stolen from me. She had accidentally walked into an investigation already in motion. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered. A male voice spoke calmly. Mr. Cole? This is Officer Ramirez from Airport Security. Pause. Your wife says you'll want to hear this in person. I stood up slowly. Because suddenly, This wasn't going exactly the way I had planned. The airport interview room was colder than I expected. White walls. One table. 2 chairs. My wife, Eliza, sat on one side, eyes red but dry. No tears, just calculation trying to survive panic. Officer Ramirez placed a file in front of me. Your property triggered a financial compliance alert, he said. Normally this would be straightforward. He tapped the folder. But there's a complication. I looked at Eliza. She wouldn't meet my eyes. What complication? I asked. Ramirez slid a photograph across the table. A printed screenshot from a banking portal. Large transfer. 7 figures. Authorized last week. From one of my company accounts. My name stamped as approval. That wasn't me, I said immediately. That's what your wife says, he replied calmly. I turned to her slowly. You told them I did this? Her voice cracked. I didn't know about the transfer, Nathan. They think I'm part of it. I frowned. That wasn't supposed to happen. The gold bars were meant to stop her from running, not pull me into anything. Ramirez folded his hands. Mr. Cole, the paperwork in her bag connects those assets to an active investigation involving unauthorized corporate transfers. My stomach tightened. Someone had moved money. Using my authorization. And now the gold, my safeguard, linked us both to it. Eliza finally looked at me. Fear real and raw. I thought I was leaving with my boyfriend, she whispered. I didn't know this was this. My mind started reordering everything. The missing money. Her sudden confidence. The timing. The safe. Maybe she wasn't the architect. Maybe she was just the distraction. Ramirez's voice interrupted my thoughts. There's someone else we need to talk about, he said. He turned the file toward me. A name highlighted in yellow. My business partner. Ryan Hale. And suddenly the betrayal felt much bigger than marriage. Ryan Hale had been in my life longer than my wife. We built the company from a one-room office and a shared credit card. He handled expansion. I handled operations. He negotiated. I secured. We trusted each other with everything. Including access. 7.4 million, Officer Ramirez said evenly. Moved in structured transfers over 9 months. All approved under your credentials. That's impossible, I said. Ryan didn't have my private authentication key. Only I did. Unless... I turned to Eliza slowly. When did you first meet him? Her expression shifted. Not guilt. Memory. At the charity gala, she said quietly. 8 months ago. The same month the transfers began. Ryan had introduced her to investors that night. Flattered her. Asked her opinion about strategy. Made her feel seen. Exactly the way young men do when they want something. You thought you were running away with your boyfriend? I said carefully. She swallowed. I thought he was helping me leave you. The room went silent. Officer Ramirez leaned back slightly. Mr. Hale left the country this morning, he said. Private charter. Before your wife was detained. Of course he did. Eliza was never the mastermind. She was the leverage. Ryan had needed access to my home. My schedule. My digital habits. She gave him all of it willingly. Check the metadata on the authorization logs, I said calmly. You'll find approvals made from my home network, when I wasn't home. Ramirez's eyes sharpened. Do you have proof? I nodded once. Yes. Because the same paranoia that made me prepare the gold, made me install something else months ago. Network tracking. Silent. Invisible. My wife looked at me differently now. Not angry. Not victorious. Just realizing something. You knew, she whispered. No, I replied. I suspected. And now the person who thought he outplayed us both was somewhere over the Atlantic. Smiling. Until he realized something very important. He never took the gold. And the gold wasn't the only thing I secured. By the time we left the airport interview room, the story had shifted. Not public yet. But internally everything had moved. Officer Ramirez didn't treat Eliza like a fugitive anymore. He treated her like a witness. Ryan had accessed my credentials remotely through a mirrored device. A clone authorized the night of that charity gala. The same evening he insisted on helping Eliza fix the Wi-Fi glitch in our house. He wasn't flirting. He was installing. The network logs I'd quietly archived showed dual authentication attempts from my home IP while I was in Chicago on a business trip. Timestamps. MAC addresses. Device fingerprint. Cold-proof. Ramirez nodded slowly as he reviewed it. This changes jurisdiction, he said. Eliza sat beside me silent. Her boyfriend wasn't her escape. He was her handler. I thought he loved me, she said under her breath. No, I replied evenly. He loved access. The 7.4 million wasn't random either. It had been siphoned through shell vendors Ryan himself recommended during expansion. He didn't need my gold. He needed my signature. And when I started quietly reviewing internal discrepancies last month, he accelerated. Convince Eliza to run. Trigger chaos. Let the missing money look like marital betrayal. Distraction buys time. Except he made one mistake. He assumed I'd react emotionally. He assumed I'd chase my wife. Instead, I audited. My phone buzzed. Encrypted email notification. Ryan's offshore account had just been flagged. Automatic freeze request triggered. By me. 3 days ago. Eliza looked at me slowly. You already knew, she whispered. I held her gaze. I always close exits before I open doors. Ryan called me at 2:13 a.m. International number. Signal delay. I answered without speaking. You're smarter than I gave you credit for, he said lightly, like we were discussing quarterly numbers instead of betrayal. You're sloppy, I replied. A quiet laugh. I'm already gone, Nathan. Not financially. Silence. He understood. The account freeze had hit. He exhaled slowly. You used her, I said. No, he corrected. I gave her what you stopped giving her. Attention. That landed harder than I expected. Because it wasn't entirely false. I built this company with you, I said. And you tried to bury me with it. I built it too, he snapped suddenly. But you were always the face. The genius. The safe choice. I was the shadow. There it was. Not greed. Resentment. He thought he deserved my life. You framed her, I said quietly. She volunteered, he replied. People see what they want to see. The line went quiet. Then his voice lowered. Tell me something, Nathan. When you put those documents in the safe, did you know she'd take them? I didn't answer. Because yes, I suspected. And maybe that made me colder than I wanted to admit. You win, he said finally. But she'll never trust you again. The call ended. I sat in the dark kitchen alone. Eliza was asleep in the guest room. Airport detention released her under cooperation status. My phone buzzed again. Email from my legal team. Ryan Hale detained during transfer connection in Madrid. Asset seizure request approved. Game over. Except it didn't feel like victory. Because as I stared at the quiet house, I realized something uncomfortable. I had protected everything. My company. My money. My legacy. Everything, except my marriage. Ryan was extradited 2 months later. The investigation spread quietly through financial circles. Shell vendors forged approvals, manipulated access logs. People called me lucky. I didn't feel lucky. I felt tired. The company survived. Investors praised my strategic foresight. News articles framed me as the calm executive who uncovered internal fraud before it collapsed everything. They never mentioned the text message from the airport. Or the look on my wife's face when she realized she had never been running away, she had been guided. Eliza moved out for a while. Not because of the investigation. Because trust doesn't return just because the truth does. One evening she came back to collect the last of her things. No anger. No drama. Just quiet honesty. You planned for me to take the gold, she said softly. I planned for the safe to be opened, I answered. She nodded slowly. That's not the same thing. She was right. We stood in the doorway like two people learning each other for the first time. I wasn't trying to destroy you, I said. I know, she replied. You just don't leave anything to chance. After she left, the house felt bigger, quieter, safer, and emptier. The gold stayed in the safe. The investigation closed. Ryan disappeared into courtrooms and consequences. Life returned to normal. But sometimes, late at night, I think about that message from the airport. About how easily she believed she could leave me, and how easily I prepared for her to try. People think survival is about winning. It isn't. It's about seeing clearly before everyone else does. I protected my future. I protected my company. And in the process, I learned the hardest truth of all. The biggest betrayal isn't when someone tries to leave you. It's when you quietly expect them to.